During the most recent supply chain collapse, when all the standard prepper foods disappeared from shelves in a matter of hours, these 11 items were still sitting there untouched, fully stocked. No rush, no panic buying. One of them, number 7 on this list, is available right now at your local Asian grocery store for under $3, while people are spending $30 on worse alternatives. And when you hear about number 4, you're probably going to ask yourself why it's almost never mentioned in prepper circles. Humans have relied on it for thousands of years, it costs next to nothing, and it will outlast both you and me. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people in the prepping world avoid. We're all consuming the same information, reading the same blogs, watching the same YouTube channels, and buying the exact same products. And that's the problem. When a real emergency hits, those popular items are the first things to vanish. I saw it happen firsthand in early 2020. White rice was wiped out in about 3 hours. Canned beans were gone before the day was over. But the next day, you know what was still sitting on the shelves without a single dent? Every food I'm about to show you. Let's break it down. Food number 1. Bouillon cubes. Bouillon cubes don't look impressive at first glance, and most people dismiss them immediately. Until I learned something last year that completely changed my thinking. During the supply disruptions in 2024, bouillon cubes had zero shortages. None at all. While shelves were getting stripped bare of everything else, bouillon just sat there untouched. No panic buying, no limits, nothing. And here's why that matters. One tiny cube delivers the equivalent of about 2 cups of broth, yet it takes up almost no space at all. On top of that, the flavor holds up for years. Now think about the reality of actually eating from your stockpile. After 2 weeks of plain rice and beans, it's not hunger that breaks people first, it's boredom. The same bland, repetitive flavor, day after day, will crush morale fast. But toss a single bouillon cube into that rice while it's cooking, and suddenly it tastes like something you'd actually choose to eat. The meal feels warm, familiar, and comforting. Your family won't just tolerate it, they'll want it. That's 500 meals instantly upgraded from cardboard-level bland to real comfort food. Compare that to freeze-dried prepper meals that run $15 a pouch, and the value difference is almost ridiculous. But here's the part most preppers completely overlook. Bouillon cubes aren't just about taste. In a survival scenario, that concentrated sodium and mineral content acts as an electrolyte source. That means it helps prevent dehydration, especially when you're eating simple foods and doing physical work. The military figured this out decades ago. There's a reason bouillon shows up in ration packs. No one is fighting over bouillon cubes during a crisis. And that's exactly why they deserve a place in your hidden stockpile. Food number 2. Nutritional yeast. Trust me, this has been an absolute game changer in my pantry. Nutritional yeast doesn't exactly scream survival food, and if you're already thinking this is just some trendy vegan health product, hang on for a second. It deserves a closer look. Nutritional yeast is a deactivated yeast with a surprisingly rich, cheesy flavor. On top of that, it's packed with B vitamins, contains complete protein, and can sit in storage for up to 2 years without any issues. What really makes it shine for prepping, though, is its ability to turn bland stockpile meals into something savory and satisfying, without refrigeration or fancy prep. Just 2 tablespoons provide around 8 grams of complete protein, meaning it contains all 9 essential amino acids your body needs. That's nearly the protein content of a whole egg. On top of that, many varieties are loaded with vitamin B12, which plays a huge role in brain function and maintaining a healthy nervous system, something you really don't want to be deficient in during a stressful situation. Here's a real-world example. Last winter, during a power outage, we were relying heavily on rice and canned vegetables. By the 4th day, everyone was over the same dull flavors. The nutty, cheesy taste completely transformed those meals, and my kids actually started asking for seconds. That alone told me it earned its spot in the stockpile. Storage couldn't be easier. Just keep it in an airtight container in a cool, dark place. I store mine in mason jars right in the pantry. No special treatment, no rotation headaches. And here's the best part. Most preppers don't even know nutritional yeast exists. That means when shortages hit, it's usually still sitting on shelves. When morale matters, and it absolutely does, that kind of upgrade is priceless. You can find nutritional yeast at health food stores or online. Start with a small container and use it in your everyday meals. Once you see how versatile it is, you'll understand why this deserves a permanent spot in every prepper's pantry. Food number 3. Canned coconut milk. Number 3 is one of those items hiding in plain sight at almost every grocery store, yet hardly any preppers bother to stock it. I'm talking about full-fat canned coconut milk, the thick, creamy kind you find in the international aisle. Not coconut water. Not the diluted beverage versions. The real stuff. Here's why this one is so powerful. In any long-term emergency, fat is absolutely essential. Your body relies on it for sustained energy, proper vitamin absorption, temperature regulation, and even clear thinking. The problem is that most prepper staples are shockingly low in fat. Rice has none. Beans have very little. And many freeze-dried meals remove fat entirely just to extend shelf life. One single can of coconut milk, on the other hand, delivers around 50 grams of healthy fat. That's serious fuel. We were eating classic survival foods, rice, beans, all the usual prepper staples. After 3 days in freezing temperatures, we were drained, cold to the bone, and mentally foggy. One guy in our group, who does long-distance hiking, pulled out a can of coconut milk, warmed it up, mixed it with rice, and within an hour everyone felt dramatically better. That fat intake made an immediate difference. It honestly saved the trip. What really pushes coconut milk into must-have territory is how flexible it is. You can stir it into rice to make meals richer and more filling. Add it to soups to dramatically boost calories. In a pinch, you can even drink it straight for fast energy. And unlike dairy, coconut milk doesn't need refrigeration. Properly stored, it stays good for years. Here's a simple survival trick. When food supplies are tight, coconut milk lets you stretch meals further. A pot of rice that would normally feed 2 people can easily feed 4 if you mix in half a can, while also massively increasing calorie content. That's efficiency. Cost-wise, it's hard to beat. A can usually runs about $2, sometimes even less at Asian grocery stores. For 50 grams of quality fat, that's an incredible return, especially when you compare it to overpriced emergency fat bars that preppers spend $8 each on. During high-stress or survival situations, your body actually requires more fat than normal to support hormone balance and nervous system function. Canned coconut milk delivers exactly that in a shelf-stable, affordable form. One that almost no one fights over when shortages hit. Food number 4. Potato flour. Okay, this one might sound a little odd at first, but stick with me. This could be one of the smartest prep foods almost nobody ever mentions. I'm talking about potato flour, not potato flakes, not instant mashed potatoes. Real, finely ground potato flour. Turns out potato flour has been used by Europeans for generations to survive long, harsh winters, and there are some very good reasons for that. First up, shelf life. When stored properly in an airtight container, potato flour can last up to 10 years. Compare that to regular all-purpose flour, which can start going bad in less than a year. That alone makes it worth considering. But here's where it really starts to shine. Potato flour is naturally gluten-free. If you or anyone in your household has celiac disease or even mild gluten sensitivity, this becomes a huge deal. In a serious crisis, do you really think grocery stores are going to be stocked with specialty gluten-free products? Highly unlikely. Having a long-lasting, gluten-free staple already stored could be a lifesaver. Nutritionally, it punches way above its weight. Potato flour is rich in resistant starch, which feeds beneficial gut bacteria and helps you feel fuller for longer. When food is limited, that feeling of fullness isn't just physical, it's mental. And that mental comfort matters more than people realize when rationing supplies. Let me give you a real-world example. Here's another pro-level use. Potato flour is an incredible thickener. Add it to soups, stews, or gravies to bulk them up. 1 tablespoon of potato flour does the work of about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, which means a little goes a very long way. Now for an important storage tip I learned the hard way. Do not keep it in the original bag. Transfer it into a food-grade bucket with a gamma seal lid and drop in an oxygen absorber. That setup dramatically extends shelf life. Think long-term, almost industrial-level preservation. I checked prices recently, and a 5-pound bag runs about $8. That's enough for dozens of meals. Meanwhile, plenty of preppers are spending hundreds on buckets of freeze-dried food that, let's be honest, often tastes like flavored cardboard. And here's the kicker. Most survival food lists don't even include potato flour, which means when panic buying starts and everyone is fighting over the same items, this stuff will likely still be sitting quietly on the shelf, right where you left it. Food number 5. Ghee. Ghee. And before you brush it off as just fancy butter, let me tell you something that still amazes me. Now here's the part that really messes with your head. Archaeologists in India have uncovered sealed containers of ghee that were over 5,000 years old and still edible. That's not a prepper rumor or internet legend. That's documented history. Which begs the question, why are so many preppers completely overlooking this? While people are panic buying freeze-dried butter powder for $30 a can, ghee is quietly sitting on grocery store shelves for around $12, and it doesn't expire in any meaningful way. Everything clicked for me last summer during a brutal heat wave that knocked out power in my area for 2 straight weeks. On day 5, my neighbor, an experienced prepper, showed up frustrated and exhausted. His butter had melted into a gross, unusable mess. His expensive coconut oil had separated and gone bad. He was genuinely upset. Meanwhile, my ghee was sitting on the counter in 95-degree heat. Still golden, still fresh, still perfectly usable. Here's what changed my entire approach to prepping. Ghee has a molecular structure that makes it resistant to oxidation. In practical terms, that means it doesn't go rancid. Ever. It's not just unlikely, it's chemically resistant. And it gets even better. Ghee actually improves as it ages. The flavor deepens and becomes more aromatic over time. Ancient Ayurvedic texts even describe century-old ghee being used medicinally. This is food that becomes more valuable the longer you store it. From a survival standpoint, fat isn't optional, it's essential. Your body depends on it for warmth, mental clarity, vitamin absorption, hormone production, and sustained energy. Most prepper staples are critically low in fat. Rice has none. Beans barely register. 1 tablespoon of ghee, though, delivers dense, clean energy that keeps you functioning when calories are limited. One tip that will save you serious money: buy grass-fed ghee. Yes, it costs a few dollars more, but the nutritional benefits are significantly better. A single jar runs about $15 and will outlast almost everything else in your pantry. Storage couldn't be easier. Leave it in the original glass jar at room temperature. No Mylar bags, no oxygen absorbers, no buckets. Just set it on a shelf and forget about it. And here's my go-to morale-saving meal from a week-long power outage. Heat up plain stockpile rice. Stir in 1 tablespoon of ghee and a pinch of salt. That's it. The transformation is unreal. Suddenly, emergency food tastes like something you'd willingly order. Soldiers figured this out long ago. During World War II and beyond, Indian troops relied on ghee because it handled extreme heat and cold, required zero refrigeration, and delivered critical calories when other fats failed. So while other preppers are burning money on freeze-dried fats and butter powders that expire in a couple of years, I've got liquid gold in my pantry, something durable enough that my grandkids could still be using it someday. Food number 6, dried seaweed. This is where the list starts getting really interesting. Food number 6 is dried seaweed. And no, I'm not suggesting kelp smoothies or anything extreme like that. Stick with me, because this one is seriously underrated. Not long ago, Japanese researchers made a discovery that completely changed how I think about long-term food storage. They found dried seaweed preserved in temple storage jars that were over 1,000 years old. 1,000 years. Even more impressive. When scientists analyzed it, the nutritional value was still remarkably strong. That alone should make preppers stop and pay attention. But here's the part almost nobody in the prepping community talks about. A single sheet of nori contains more iodine than most people consume in an entire week. Iodine is absolutely critical for thyroid health, and your thyroid regulates energy levels, metabolism, body temperature, and even mental clarity. When iodine is missing, things go downhill fast. Here's where dried seaweed really shines. Most preppers ignore it entirely, which means it's almost never sold out. I walked into an Asian grocery store just last week and found shelves fully stocked with every variety imaginable. Nori, wakame, dulce, no limits, no panic buying. Each type brings something different to the table. Nori contains a surprising amount of protein. Wakame is rich in magnesium, which plays a huge role in energy production and mood regulation. Dulse works as a natural salty seasoning, making bland food far more enjoyable without relying on processed salt. My method couldn't be simpler. I crumble a single sheet of nori into rice while it's cooking. That's it. It adds a subtle, savory depth that makes basic stockpile meals taste almost gourmet. No extra prep, no special equipment. And here's something you won't hear from most prepper channels. Dried seaweed is one of the most environmentally efficient emergency foods you can store. It needs no refrigeration, takes up almost no space, and unlike rice or beans, it doesn't strain freshwater resources to produce. That matters more than people realize in long-term planning. Food number 7. Chia seeds. Chia seeds. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Those trendy health food seeds everyone sprinkles on smoothies. But stick with me, because once you understand their survival value, they completely change the game. Chia seeds were so important to the Aztecs that warriors were actually paid with them. These weren't just snacks or supplements, they were used as currency. That alone should tell you how critical they were for long-term survival. Here's why modern preppers should be paying attention. Chia seeds preserve their omega-3 fatty acids for years, far longer than fish oil supplements ever could. In fact, just 1 teaspoon of chia seeds contains more omega-3s than a full serving of salmon. That's already impressive, but it's not even the best part. The real advantage, the one almost nobody talks about, is their ability to absorb water. Chia seeds can soak up as much as 12 times their weight in liquid. In a survival scenario where clean water is limited, that matters more than most people realize. When you eat chia seeds, they expand in your stomach and form a gel. This slows digestion dramatically, which means you stay full much longer and your body has more time to absorb nutrients. I tested this myself last year. One morning, I ate my usual rice and beans breakfast and was hungry again in about 3 hours. The next day, I added just 1 tablespoon of chia seeds to the same meal, and I didn't feel hungry for 7 hours. Think about what that means when food is being rationed. You're not just stretching meals, you're reducing how often you need to eat. That's a massive advantage. Another huge bonus, chia seeds require 0 cooking. You can eat them dry, soak them in water to make a gel, or sprinkle them onto almost any food. In a bug-out situation where fuel or cooking isn't possible, that flexibility is incredibly valuable. When vacuum-sealed and stored in amber glass containers, chia seeds retain their nutritional value for up to 5 years. Here's something most prepper channels never mention. Chia seeds are one of nature's best hydration tools in hot survival conditions. They help your body retain water more efficiently. This was discovered by studying how Aztec messengers could run over 100 miles in extreme heat while relying mainly on chia seeds for fuel. On top of all that, chia seeds contain all 9 essential amino acids, making them a complete protein. For vegetarian preppers, or situations where meat simply isn't available, that alone makes them invaluable. Food number 8. Instant noodle blocks from Asian markets. Food number 8 is high-quality instant noodle blocks from Asian grocery stores. And no, I'm not talking about the cheap 25-cent ramen bricks from big box stores. I mean the real instant noodles you find at Asian markets, the kind locals actually eat every day. Let me explain how I figured this out. About 2 years ago, I decided to do a full 30-day test run using only the food in my stockpile. No shortcuts, no takeout. By day 12, I was completely over it. Rice and beans had crushed my morale. My wife was irritated, the kids were complaining non-stop, and I was seriously questioning my life choices. Then I remembered the instant noodle blocks I had picked up on a whim from an Asian market. That moment changed everything. Here's what sets these noodles apart from standard ramen. First, the noodles themselves are higher quality. We're talking wheat-based, sometimes egg-based noodles with real substance and actual nutrition. Some varieties contain 8 to 10 grams of protein per serving, which is way more than most people expect. But the real secret weapon is the seasoning. These packets aren't just salt and MSG. They include layered spice blends, dried vegetables, real mushroom powder, authentic soup bases, and a wide range of flavors that make each meal feel different. Now, are they health food? No, not exactly. But here's something hardcore preppers often overlook. Psychology matters. In a real emergency, eating the same bland food day after day doesn't just get annoying, it affects your brain. Studies show that food monotony during long-term crises leads to decision fatigue and worse problem solving. In simple terms, boring food makes you mentally sluggish when you need to be sharp. That's why I keep around 100 noodle blocks in my secondary storage. The total cost was under $50. Each one makes a complete meal, cooks in about 3 minutes, needs very little water, and, most importantly, adds variety that keeps everyone sane. Here's the insider strategy. Go to your local Asian supermarket and head straight to the instant noodle aisle. Look for brands that locals are buying in bulk. Avoid any seasoning packets that say, refrigerate after opening. Stick with options that are fully shelf-stable. Storage is easy. Keep the noodles in their original packaging, then stack them flat inside large plastic bins. They take up far less space than you'd expect. And here's the best part. During real shortages, almost nobody thinks to panic buy from Asian grocery stores. While mainstream shelves get wiped out, these markets are often still fully stocked, simply because most Americans never think to check them. Food number 9. Textured vegetable protein. Food number 9 is one most preppers have never even heard of, yet survivalists have been quietly relying on it for decades. It's called textured vegetable protein, or TVP. This is dehydrated soy protein that comes in small chunks or granules, and it's far more useful than it sounds at first. TVP is incredibly lightweight, stores for an extremely long time, and here's the part that surprises most people. Once you add water, it takes on the texture of ground meat. I originally came across it while researching how long-distance hikers manage protein on multi-week trails. They can't afford the weight of canned food, so they rely on TVP instead. 1 pound of dry TVP rehydrates into roughly 3 pounds of meat equivalent. That alone makes it impressive, but the shelf life really seals the deal. When stored in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers, TVP can easily last between 10 and 15 years. Nutritionally, it's a powerhouse, delivering around 50 grams of protein per cup once rehydrated. Using it is simple. Pour hot water or broth over it and let it sit for about 10 minutes. It absorbs the liquid and turns into a meat-like texture that blends seamlessly into meals. I use it in chili, tacos, spaghetti sauce, anywhere you'd normally use ground meat. The cost makes it even more appealing. A 1-pound bag usually runs about $6 and replaces 3 pounds of meat. Compare that to freeze-dried meat, which can cost $20 per pouch, and the savings become obvious fast. I keep around 20 pounds of TVP in my stockpile. That's the equivalent of 60 pounds of ground meat, taking up a fraction of the space and costing a fraction of the price. For storage, I move it out of the original packaging and seal it in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers or store it in food-grade buckets. Kept cool and dry, it will easily outlast many of your other food preps. Food number 10. Powdered milk. Number 10 is a classic, but most preppers mess it up because they store it incorrectly. I'm talking about powdered milk. The mistake almost everyone makes is leaving it in the original cardboard box. That packaging lets in air and moisture, and before you know it, the milk turns clumpy, stale, and unpleasant within a few months. Here's the method that actually works. Buy powdered milk in bulk, then repackage it immediately. Transfer it into Mylar bags, add oxygen absorbers, and seal everything with an impulse sealer. Stored this way, powdered milk can last anywhere from 15 to 20 years without any quality issues. Nutritionally, it's a solid option. Powdered milk provides calcium, protein, vitamin D, and it's far more versatile than people realize. You can mix it for drinking, bake with it, add it to coffee, make yogurt, or even turn it into simple cheeses. It's one of those ingredients that quietly supports a lot of comfort foods. Here's a practical tip that makes the transition easier. Start blending powdered milk with fresh milk in your everyday cooking, half powdered, half fresh. Your family slowly adjusts to the taste, so if you ever have to rely on powdered milk alone, it doesn't feel like a sudden downgrade. During emergencies, dairy products disappear fast. Having a dependable supply of powdered milk means you can still make morale-boosting foods like pancakes, muffins, creamy soups, and sauces. Small comforts that make a big difference when stress is high. Food number 11. Hard winter wheat berries. This final item is the backbone of real, long-term food security. Something serious preppers understand, but casual ones often skip right over. Hard winter wheat berries. This is whole, unprocessed wheat, and when it's stored correctly in food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers, it can last 30 years or more. Some people argue it lasts indefinitely. Here's why that matters. Regular flour starts to go bad in less than a year, but wheat berries stay stable for decades. When you're ready to use them, you grind them into fresh flour on demand. And nutritionally, freshly milled flour is in a completely different league than store-bought flour. All the natural vitamins, minerals, and healthy fats are still intact, instead of slowly degrading on a shelf for months. You might be thinking, I don't even own a grain mill. That's an easy fix. A hand-crank grain mill costs around $60 and is a one-time purchase. In a grid-down situation, that tool gives you the ability to make fresh flour and bread for as long as your wheat supply lasts. And here's where it really shines. Wheat berries are incredibly calorie-dense, packing around 1,600 calories per pound. When survival becomes about maximizing calories, wheat delivers in a big way. The versatility is hard to beat. You can grind it into flour, cook the berries whole like rice for a chewy, nutritious grain, sprout them for fresh greens in winter, or even grow wheatgrass for juicing. Very few foods offer that many options from a single ingredient. While everyone else is scrambling for bags of flour that will go bad in a few months, you've got decades worth of fresh flour sitting quietly in your pantry, ready whenever you need it. So here's the bottom line. While most people are fighting over the same overhyped prepper foods, you now know 11 options that are cheaper, easier to store, more nutritious, and far more likely to still be available when shortages hit. These aren't theoretical picks. They're the foods I personally keep in my own stockpile. If this gave you new ideas, hit the like button so I know to make more content like this. Leave a comment telling me which of these 11 foods you're stocking up on first.